The morning rush at Maggie's diner was like any other. Plates clinking, coffee brewing, and the faint hum of old country music playing from a dusty jukebox. In the corner, the smell of bacon and maple syrup floated through the air, mixing with the chatter of truckers and locals stopping by for breakfast behind. The counter was Anna, a young waitress with tired eyes, but a heart that never seemed to lose its warmth. She had been working double shifts all week, saving money for her younger brother's surgery. Her hands ached, her feet burned, but she never let the smile fade from her face. That smile, fragile yet brave, was what everyone at Maggie's knew her for, but that morning would test her spirit in a way she never could have imagined. Before we dive into this story of courage, redemption, and unexpected kindness, take a moment. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of doing what's right, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel. Stories like this one remind us that even in darkness, light can still break through. It began when a group of rough-looking men walked in, their heavy boots thudding against the wooden floor. Among them was a man named Troy, a bulky figure with tattoos creeping up his neck and a permanent scowl carved across his face. He had a reputation around town, a temper that flared faster than a match in gasoline. He slid into a booth near the window, his plate of eggs and hash browns landing. Before him, moments later, Anna, ever polite, refilled his coffee with her usual gentle tone. "Here you go, sir." But Troy was already in a foul mood. His day had gone wrong before it even began, and he was looking for somewhere to pour his anger when the coffee spilled just slightly, barely a drop on the table. He snapped. The diner went silent as his voice rose, booming through the small room. "Can't you do anything right?" he shouted. Standing up abruptly, Anna froze, her lips trembling as she tried to apologize, but before she could, Troy did something that made every heart in that diner stop. He struck her. The sound of the slap echoed like thunder in the quiet room. Anna stumbled backward, clutching her cheek, eyes wide with shock. A plate shattered on the floor. No one moved. The truckers looked down, unsure what to do, afraid of the man's rage. The world seemed to hold its breath, and then the bell above the door jingled. A group of bikers stepped in. Their leather vests bore the insignia of a local motorcycle club, men who looked every bit as tough as Troy, maybe tougher. Leading them was Jack, a broad man with silvering hair and a calm but heavy presence. He wasn't there to cause trouble. He and his crew often stopped by for breakfast after long rides, but the second Jack's eyes fell on Anna, tears streaming down her face, a red mark burning on her cheek, something inside him shifted. He didn't need to ask what happened. He saw it in everyone's eyes. Jack walked forward, silent, his boots clicking slowly against the tile. Troy turned, puffing up his chest as if ready for a fight, but Jack didn't speak. The air grew tense, heavy with unspoken rage. Then Jack looked at Anna, his voice steady yet filled with quiet fury. "You okay, sweetheart?" he asked. Anna could barely nod, her hands trembling. That was enough. Jack turned to Troy, stepping closer until they were face to face. The diner felt smaller, the world shrinking to the space between the two men. "You think you're a tough guy," Jack said in a low voice. "Try picking on someone who can hit back." Troy's eyes darted nervously around the room, realizing for the first time how many of Jack's men had surrounded him, each one standing silently like a wall. Troy muttered something under his breath, but Jack didn't flinch. He grabbed Troy by the collar, not violently but firmly, and led him outside. The others followed from the window. Anna could see them talking in the parking lot. There were no punches thrown, no shouting, just words, but the look on Troy's face changed from anger to something else. Guilt, maybe shame. A few minutes later, Troy walked back in alone. His hands shook as he approached Anna. "I'm sorry," he muttered, his voice small and broken. The diner was silent. Again, all eyes on the man who had just moments ago seemed like a monster. Anna stood there, stunned, then nodded. Quietly, "Thank you," she whispered, still shaken but stronger than before. Jack returned and placed a wad of bills on the counter. "For her brother," he said, softly, nodding toward Anna. Somehow, he knew maybe someone had told him once before, or maybe kindness didn't always need an explanation before leaving. He looked at Troy again. "We've all done things we're not proud of," he said. "What matters is what you do next." The bikers rode off into the distance, the rumble of their engines fading into the horizon inside. The diner, something had changed. The regulars who had stayed silent now stood to comfort Anna, offering her words, hugs, and help. Even Troy stayed behind, sitting alone, staring at his untouched meal. He didn't touch his coffee. Again, for the first time, his reflection in the window looked like a man he didn't recognize. Over the next few weeks, Troy began showing up at the diner, not to eat, but to help. He fixed the broken booth, cleaned the windows, and carried boxes for Anna, without ever asking for anything in return the first time. Anna smiled at him again, even faintly. He knew he was beginning to make things right. Months passed, and Anna's brother had his surgery. The entire diner community had come together to raise the money, inspired by the biker's act of unexpected goodness. On the day Anna's brother was declared fully recovered, she stood outside the diner at sunset, holding a cup of coffee. Across the street, Troy was sweeping the sidewalk. He looked up. Their eyes met, and for the first time she saw not the man who hurt her, but the man trying to change. Sometimes kindness isn't about what you say, it's about what you do after you've done wrong. It's about redemption, and the courage it takes to face the person you've become, and choose to be better. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us keep telling stories that remind the world that compassion and forgiveness still exist. And before you go, comment below, would you forgive someone who hurt you if they truly tried to change? Because in the end, that's what this story is really about. Not hate, not fear, but hope, and the belief that even the hardest hearts can find their way back to kindness.